3 billion rand. That's the amount the SIU has clawed back in its investigations into corruption. It's a laudable amount, right? I mean, it's a lot of money. But it is in fact a drop in the ocean based on the sums alleged to have been stolen from the South African taxpayer, as high as 120 billion rand by some estimates. Its investigations follow various presidential proclamations to uncover maladministration, corruption, malpractice at state institutions. So the SIU wants to be able to pursue matters that arise out of SCOPA investigations into fruitless, irregular and wasteful expenditure. And so they've signed a Memorandum of Understanding. Mkhuleko Hlengwa is the Standing Committee on Public Accounts chairperson, joining us now on the line. Always great to have you on the show. Thank you for your time.
An absolute pleasure, Bongani. Good morning.
I suppose it's important to note as we start that the SIU does not itself identify matters to investigate.
Well, that is partially true. The SIU can, on the basis of secondment, actually be attached to investigations at government departments and entities. And I think whilst, of course, the known aspect is that of proclamations, there's also that particular one. And also, of course, on the basis of whistleblower reports, the SIU may initiate a proclamation. So if an allegation is made, the SIU may make a submission if it has tested the allegations and then go on to the presidency. So it's a two-pronged approach, and we are tapping into that insofar as the MOU that we have initiated and subsequently signed. And I think, for the benefit of the public, if I may just go back a little bit. So in 2019, the committee entered into what I can call a gentleman's agreement that we would be referring matters and cases to them as and when we deemed it necessary, and we found this to be effective. Secondly, when we interrogated the implementation of the SIU reports and the other issues that you raised in your intro now, it dawned on us that, of course, the SIU would send the reports to the presidency as the originator because the proclamation is signed there. And since 2001, 2002, the presidency does not have an implementation protocol for the SIU reports insofar as affected government departments and entities are concerned. And so we initiated that process to make sure that the reports run to their logical conclusion. Because in certain aspects, there are disciplinary matters which need to be undertaken. There's internal consequence management and financial management matters that must be taken care of by government departments and entities, which may not necessarily mean they need to go to law enforcement agencies or the special tribunal as things stand now. So that's the second aspect which has necessitated us entering into this MOU so that we can create a seamless flow of information and to ensure the implementation of SIU reports. Last week we met with the minister and the presidency and we are moving closer and closer to finalizing that implementation protocol. The last point on this matter is that we ordinarily, in terms of the Constitution as a committee and the rules of Parliament, receive information from the Auditor General on the basis of the audit that may have been conducted, and we interrogate the audit outcomes. When we have concluded those hearings with the departments and entities on the basis of those reports, we send reports and recommendations to the House. It is our outlook that we need to take it a step further and exercise our right, which says we can report cases to law enforcement agencies. So we are entering into this MOU to enhance that work, to say where we believe and have determined that there has been a breach of the law, there is irregular, fruitless, and unwasteful expenditure that is unexplained, unaccounted for. It is our duty and responsibility to take it to law enforcement agencies, because Parliament doesn't have those investigative capabilities as an institution, and so we must work with law enforcement agencies, and we have found that the arrangement, as ad hoc as it was, that we arrived at with the SIU is beneficial, and there are already 3 matters, by the way, that we have referred to the SIU. So this MOU formalizes that working arrangement administratively and ensures that there's coherence in the value chain of oversight and accountability.
The consequence management point is what I want to pick up on, because in a sense, as you say, this cooperation is not new, and out of it, in fact, flowed your intervention that ensured that the presidency then had mechanisms to effect action on these investigations. So not everyone was prosecuted, but maybe some individuals or companies could no longer do business with state entities because of these types of investigations.
That's correct. So, in fact, amongst others, the interventions that we are working on is the blacklisting of companies, but we are engaging with the presidency to take it a step further in National Treasury to also blacklist individuals. So, for example, if John Doe were to open a company and his company is found to be corrupt and there's issues around it and there's a legal conclusion on the matter, then they go and open another company. So whilst companies have got legal locus standi, we believe that individuals as well behind those companies must be held to the same standard. So part of the intervention of this is to assign individual responsibility, and that is why we are in full support of the amendments to the Public Audit Act, which on material irregularities, those amendments that were done, that place responsibility at the doorstep of accounting officers as individuals to ensure that we do not leave oversight and accountability hanging. So part of the work we are doing now is to ensure that the presidency concludes on that implementation protocol, because we deem it to be an indictment and a dereliction of duty on the part of the presidency not to have had a protocol of this nature. And we've got reports gathering dust since 2001. And so we need to clean up that backlog. And we believe that we're making significant headway on that matter.
Here's a 2-point question. I said in my introduction that 3 billion rand sounds impressive until you consider, of course, how much more has not yet been recovered. Is the process of, the pace rather, of processing matters too slow? Because the other question, of course, is that even when recovery does happen, is it enough when people don't go to jail?
Well, of course, it's not enough. The consequence management, as I've said, is twofold, if not threefold. One, there has to be individual accountability, which means individuals must be taken to prison if the court so deem fit. Secondly, is a matter of the recoveries that the state needs to make. And the third aspect would be the need to ensure that the reforms required in each government department or entity which emanates out of the recommendations is implemented. We believe that the establishment of the special tribunal, which the SIU is working with, which has got the powers of the High Court, makes it easier now to fast track, and we believe that the SIU is making headway. The lethargy, rather, that we have seen arises out of the fact that the SIU matters have been subjected to your normal court processes, and so the dispensation of the special tribunal quickens the pace, which will mean the recoveries are going to be coming in thick and fast. The final point is, we are going to be making a recommendation to the 7th Parliament to ensure that there's a restructuring and a review of the SIU funding model, considering that the debt bill of government departments and entities to the SIU itself is over 1 billion rand, but because they are not paying. And so that's part of the interventions which we are placing with the presidency, but also recommending that the next parliament must look at as a matter of urgency, because it will end up collapsing the work of the SIU if they are cash strapped and the government departments are not paying.
All right, Mkhuleko Hlengwa, if you get a chance to come back, will you take up the chairpersonship of SCOPA once again? You won't do a Tembakori on us, right?
Well, time will tell. I think we've done our part, and it's to the next parliament to continue the work. We are committed to leaving behind in the legacy report areas where there's been successes. We will point to our own shortcomings as a committee so that they can build on it and strengthen those mechanisms. So we will leave a North Star report which will provide clarity in terms of where we are and where they need to go.
All right, Mkhuleko Hlengwa is the Standing Committee on Public Accounts chairperson. And I mean, it's a question to ask around you can recover monies, you can take things away from people, but what does it matter when they don't go to jail? I don't know if you saw the recent carte blanche piece on Edwin Sodi, where a string of accusations were given in detail. Some of the cases you would think are watertight, but there he is, living his best life.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions.
Your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.